Hi, this is Melanie of Pardesi Reviews, and I'm here with Kathy of Cinemondo Podcast, and we're going to talk about the Malayalam film Romancham, which is the biggest hit of 2023.
So good. We did a trailer reaction for it, and I've been wanting to review it, and I'm glad that you suggested it because I love horror and comedy horror.
I know. I've learned Kathy really likes horror, which is not so much my genre. However, this film is more in the comedy horrors
definitely
realm, and that I can still enjoy. Like Saw, forget about it. I'm not watching Saw. I'm not watching anything gruesome like that.
That's true.
And if you think about it, they're really of all Indian cinema. I can just point. It does not seem to be necessarily a frequent thing to do really hardcore horror. I have seen sort of ghost thrillers in Malayalam. I always mention Ezra, which just made me laugh, and it wasn't supposed to make me laugh, but okay.
That's funny.
Prithviraj, I love you, but you made a lot of questionable.
Well, sometimes you don't nail it. And, I laugh at horror all the time. People are like, and I'm always getting comments like, why is she laughing? I'm like, because technically I find horror very funny.
Well, also the jump scares kind of give you that I don't know, like this makes you laugh. It's kind of a release of the tension sometimes.
Exactly.
So it's a good mix.
It is.
Anyway, so this was a debut director, Jithu Madhavan. And the only really named person amongst the cast, besides some little cameos, was Soubin Shahir. And
love him.
I mean, I love they're a group of 7 bachelors living in this house.
Oh my God. 7 men in one house, not a good idea. It was terrible.
Soubin Shahir, he's almost 40 in real life. So I'm like, how old are these guys supposed to be? But I was just kind of laughing at the way that they dressed him with kind of these, I don't know, t-shirts and whatever. They were trying to like young him down a little bit. There seems to be only one person in the entire house who actually has a job. And then and I don't know if that's the same person who has the job selling toilets.
That was the toilet gag is funny.
And they were just everywhere in the house.
And I like too the running gag of where they would see their toilets around town being used for other things. Like the one guy would put candy in it or something that he would sell, and he was like, "That's one of our toilets." And they even use the toilet in their own house, like it's in the living room as like an ice chest or something. It was very, very strange.
I know they were using it for all different things, or they were just like, "That's where you put your beer or whatever." Right?
It was so funny. It was like, put the rice in there, keep it warm. It's just weird stuff. Very, very funny. But I love that because it just was like normal, just a bunch of toilets sitting around the house. It was very, very strange.
Yeah, I mean, there was one guy who just, like you said, it got so bad and so dirty that one guy just put his foot down and
I was so glad for that guy.
Handing out chores and just like, we're done.
He was like the dad. Like he finally just said, "That's it, you guys," because he comes out and they're all passed out everywhere and there's crap everywhere, like a party night. I love to. This is a favorite trick of mine that people do. They open with this great party. And there's a song on and lights and there's slow motion dancing. It just looks like the best party ever. And then they cut to what it really looks like. Just a bunch of drunk people falling down and moving around and passing out on the floor. It did not look good at all. It's like your perception versus reality. That was a really funny gag.
That was really funny. I also loved it was kind of an homage. They had sort of what I would call Christmas lights on the wall, but it was definitely in kind of a Stranger Things kind of a pattern.
Yeah. It was very, very good. So that alone, like the idea of there was like a frat house basically, kind of how from Westerners, like a bunch of guys living in one house. I love that the one guy finally just said, "Okay, everybody just has one thing they have to do because I can't do everything." And that's how I've always felt. Like I'm always the one like doing the cleaning up and doing the organizing and doing the cooking and cleaning up and doing the dishes. Like, no. we're gonna change this up. So I like that they kind of like, we don't have to do it, but then they start doing it and they kind of get into the fact that they have this thing to do. Like the one guy enjoyed like kind of prepping for the cooking, and it was cute how they found a purpose. And just because they weren't working, they were barely working. And
so like, the rat poison. So their place had gotten so dirty, that they kept finding rats everywhere. So the guy puts out rat poison on pieces of coconut. And then the guys are like, he's like, no, don't eat that. It's rat poison. I mean, just like
they have this bowl. Like, this is how dumb it is. A bowl of tasty looking coconut chips. Oh, by the way, and I'm like, well, that's going to come back later. Like, by the way, don't eat that poison. It's infused with coconut. I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what people would do. Something dumb like that.
and so I mean, there's one character that just reaches out and grabs a rat at one point, and it's really creepy. But anyway,
So I love rats. I found it very cute.
And then when they're burying the rats, they bury them and they put little crosses.
It's so cute. There's a little yard full. That's very cute.
As the movie goes on, we go from one cross to, I don't know, like dozens of crosses out there in their front yard.
It was cute that they did that, though. I thought that was very precious.
So I mean, there's nothing completely original about this film. Okay, the horror of it is that, you know, they get bored and they bring out. It's a current board. It's a game that has like, you know, like this and whatever, and like they put a little sand on the board. Mm-hmm. So you see that frequently in Indian movies. I've never played it, but anyway, he kind of makes it into a Ouija board. You know, the Soubin Shahir character. Right. And they're bored and they're like, okay. And so, you know, he and one other guy are like, oh yeah, they're winking at each other. We're going to move this glass.
Like,
and
we're going to
freak. Yeah. We're going to, and they, you know, they just exchange these looks like, we're going to freak everybody out. We're going to do this. Right.
It was so good.
Right. So we have at least like an hour of setup of comedy, whatever, setting up all of the relationships with these guys and everything. And so when they do the Ouija board, a spirit named Anamika, a female spirit, answers them. But then she's answering all these questions. So it becomes this thing where people come over.
I love that.
There's a cameo, Chimon Vinod Bose, that like comes over, and that was a great scene because he was like, he's testing the spirit.
I love that. Was like the turning point.
They ask questions and he's like, what's my father's name?
That was a great moment because it kind of all of a sudden it crystallized what was happening in the whole thing. Because you had all these coming in going, you know, will I find love? You know, all these dumb questions that anyone can answer. So I love that he came in to kind of fact check them. Like, no one knows my father's name. What is my father's name? So then you can see them looking scared, like, oh, what are we gonna do?
That's my uncle's name. That's not my father's name. And then
I love that too. And they kind of go,
right. And then he's getting all choked up.
Realization.
Like, really, like, that was a great actor coming in. He's also a fantastic screenwriter, by the way. So I mean, that's the thing in Malayalam cinema. It's like they'll come in, they'll do a cameo. Next time they're directing. Next time they're the screenwriter.
I love that. It's an inclusive filmmaking.
That scene was amazing.
So good. And even you weren't sure at that point. You weren't totally sure. Are they faking this? Because you keep seeing them looking at each other, and each one, you know, these two guys, none of the other guys were in on it. They were kind of like, you got this, right? I got this. Like, they kind of were winking at each other. And at that point, when that happened, you're like, how would that spirit know that? How would they know that? So then you're like, oh. And I like that he got insulted thinking, no, my father's name is my father's brother's name. And then all of a sudden the realization was happening. And that's when it all kind of changes for them, because then all of a sudden it becomes real, and they're like, whoa, this is getting too much. What do we do? And I love that too, because it's like, you've unleashed this thing. Now you have to take care of this thing.
And we have the one guy, and I'm sorry, I don't know the actor's name, but the really big dude who kind of kept it. There's always one of those in the horror movies, right? To give the warnings of, now you've done it. Now you've unleashed the spirit. Now you've done this too many times, and they're, you know, attached to your home, and they'll never leave. And
it's all fun and games until what happens? They say someone's gonna die tonight, and then you're like, and then they're wondering, did I do that? Did you do that? Is this really happening? So then I start getting kind of scared, because the guys were all really cute, and you don't want anybody to die, you know. Right. So I was getting very worried at that point.
I know. And then they were just like, they think it's their friend, and they're like, they're not going to let him go home by himself. And they're just like, oh my God. You know,
I know. And then that's the classic move of like, you know, we're going to change the future. But what you've done is actually make the future happen, because you're doing exactly what will make this happen. The death happen. You know, that's the classic. Let's avoid the death, but then create the death.
So I was really sorry in a way to watch this film at home by myself, because I think watching this with an audience would have just made it more funny, because there's a lot of comedic things. Now I know some of the things were probably cultural or wordplay that were just going over my head, right? I've definitely been in the audience at an Indian, at an Indian movie, and people around me are laughing uproariously, and I'm like,
I know, right? You're like, am I missing this joke?
So I bet that would have been the case for this movie as well. I'm sure there were a lot of gags and funny bits that just I wasn't getting. But for me, the movie took off when the friend Sinu in the second half when Sinu shows up. So he's Soubin Shahir's friend who's gone. I can't even remember what trauma or something he has gone through.
Yeah,
and he's just off. He's just off. He's smiling, but
he just was eerie. Like he's always like, "Hi."
Yeah, Arjun Ashokan. Now I've seen him in supporting roles in other films. This is the best thing I have ever seen him do. Like
so good.
Total scene stealer. Every time he was on screen, I'm like, what is this guy gonna do next? He was amazing.
It was so good. And you would think like with a cast this big of so many men, and then you add another man to the mix, what can he possibly bring to this? Like there's so many great performances, so many funny characters, so quirky. But boy, you're right. He totally dominated. Like he came in and it was like his main goal was to not do anything really. Except smile all the time and be creepy.
Oh my God. He was just like, he would smile. And it was like the guys were like,
it's like, right? It's like he seems okay, but something's up. I don't know. He doesn't seem right.
And then they felt so sorry for him. And then the moment they tried to send him home with his mom, and he's just like, call some, tell him. And they're like, no, he's the one that called your mom.
Oh no, it was so bad. I know, it was very sad. But I thought that was, when you have that escalation, like I'm backing up for a second. So the framework is very odd because you start with him in the hospital.
Yeah.
And something terrible's happened.
He has meningitis, which is known for having extremely high fevers.
So he can't leave the hospital till he, can see what the picture is on the wall or read something. And so the whole time you're wondering, well, what happened? And he keeps trying to see his friends. He has to send his friends a message. So you have this flashing back and forth between what's happening with the Ouija board, real or not, and what's happening with him in the hospital where he's
in present day.
Yeah, it was very strange. And then I also thought it was interesting how they had the whole thing that kicks off the idea is he goes to another house where there is an actual seance happening with the Ouija board, and they kind of go, oh, Ouija, that looks fun. I love their version of Ouija. It was fascinating. They have a lit candle, they put a glass over it, candle goes out, and then everyone's fingers have to stay on it. And we all know that trick. But I love that they had their own homemade one that actually still worked as a legitimate Ouija board because of that candle, because of the glass. You're able to move that stuff.
You're right. It is different.
That was fascinating.
We've seen it in Western movies. There's sort of there's not a candle or a glass in the middle. There's sort of, I don't know what it's called, but there's a piece that people move around in the middle, but it's definitely different. And I like that. Because
I love that too.
When the candles go out, then, that's
right. Like life is gone. Now you brought in the spirit can now take up the space that was there with you. I thought that was a really, really elegant way to do that because you knew exactly when it was going to start, how it ended. Like, and I love how the one guy was like, don't take your fingers off. Like he's trying to stay in there. He's yelling. The other guy's just running around. He's like, he's keeping his finger on there going, I'm holding this thing together. It's very, very cute. The whole thing I found very cute. I mean, I don't think, I don't think it really tried to be super scary. It had a few moments that were sort of creepy, like with like the guy dying, his supposed death that was going to happen. And that was very stressful, especially, you don't know what's going to happen. But mostly it was played for laughs. But I think a lot of it was sort of that, like you're like, there's all these guys together. They're all varying degrees of success or not, and them trying to find their way in the world. And then having this as their sort of solution, like this will give us answers and purpose. We can have this Ouija board. I mean, I love how they kind of incorporate that into it, and then it bites them in the ass, sort of.
Right, and like the one guy that has the job, I love how the detail with him is that he kept getting lost on his way home. Like lights,
that was another great one.
Out, and that was. And like at one point, they're all outside on their patio or whatever, and they just see him going by, and they're like, like he's going by again. Like,
it was so funny. Just the fun, really clever gags. I love that.
I mean, this had to have had a really small budget. Like you said, it's not like we were seeing
Oh,
these crazy
basically one location,
right.
essentially, maybe
Basically,
one or two.
right, exactly. One location. They had a couple of outdoor
Hmm.
things, like this spirit kind of takes them supposedly to where
Yeah.
something happened, right?
Yeah.
And but otherwise, mainly all in this house or the
Hmm.
exterior of the house. And then, yeah, you have 7 guys, but you only have one real named actor that
Yeah.
I've seen in other film. He's the
Yeah.
name draw to the film.
Yeah.
And other than that, it's a bunch of newbies who were all great.
Really great. Yeah.
And like I said, the guy playing Sinu was amazing.
It's
He
always
was.
great.
I
I
had
love
seen
him.
him in supporting, like I said, I've seen him in supporting roles in other more
Hmm.
dramatic films, and he just was amazing at being kind of that off kilter
Yeah.
smile, and then it turns to creepy,
Yeah,
like
he feels like, yeah, I'm in charge, kind of. Like he had that he kind of ran that line of, I'm the one here who's being the adult, not the real adult who actually makes them clean up, but the guy who's like, I have these ideas, I have things that I can think of, and then he was never really great at the follow through, and he kind of lost his confidence a little
yeah,
bit, but he still
yeah,
acted like he was in charge, which alone was part of him and the
yeah.
other guy. I love the other guy too. Like he's kind of going, so cute.
But I mean, I think the title is perfect because it means goosebumps.
Yeah,
And that's exactly
yeah,
right. I mean, it's
it's
not like
goosebumps.
Saw, or it's like, ooh, like a little bit of a
Yeah,
shiver,
a little, just
but
enough. Yeah.
yeah, but just more on the fun comedy
Yeah, it's
side.
not trying to be disturbing really. It's kind of
Right. I
playing
mean,
it for
it's
laughs.
something that you could bring most of the family to, and I
Yeah.
mean, maybe there was there was some drug humor or whatever. Maybe you don't bring the
Yeah.
smallest children, but other than that, it's really
They wouldn't get it.
so I mean, there's a reason, and I can imagine, like I said, it would be super fun to see
Yeah.
with a group of friends in the theater, which is um
Yeah.
so at the end of the film, I think when they made it, they weren't sure if they would do a sequel, but now, because it's literally one of the top 10 grossing films in Malayalam cinema of all time.
That's insane.
Of all
Oh my
time.
god. See, that is the power of horror. It's the same in America, really. It's like horror is the like golden ticket. If you do horror or horror comedy, it is almost guaranteed to make its money back. I mean, we have this new movie out here now called Evil Dead. It's a sequel, and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, it looks fine, whatever. Massive. So I can see why they, and I haven't seen a ton of Indian horror. Like you're saying, there's not a ton. I love Tumbad.
Yeah,
Incredible. That to me is the gold standard so far.
yeah,
I've seen a few
absolutely.
since then. So good. And really, I love the folk horror aspect of it.
Absolutely. Love
So
that
good. No humor in that though. It's not funny at all.
one.
Um, so I think it's smart of them to start investigating and kind of dipping their toe into this genre, because especially Malayalam, which it totally fits that horror genre of low budget,
Yes.
grounded,
Love
big
it.
effects ruins horror. Don't big budget horror never works. Just not. You've got to keep it small, grounded, real feeling. And so
Yeah.
it's perfect for Malayalam to go into this, and you can see why it would work. Like I could see that take the humor out, and that would still be a really effective movie. If you
Mhm.
went full go with the Ouija board idea and them predicting and then predicting things about themselves they were terrified to find out, and can they change the future and what's going to happen and how do we get rid of this spirit now, that would still be a great solid horror movie. So
Right.
that's
Or
when I
if
know a
we
horror movie is
get some
good.
kind of we still at the end of the movie don't
Yeah.
really know anything about the spirit other than
No.
her name.
Yeah, and we're still assuming she's real. I mean,
Right.
I
I
always,
mean,
because we have kind of,
it was really cleverly done
it was.
how the last scenes, spoilers, but the last
Yeah.
scenes, the things that happened
Yeah.
could all be explained.
Yeah.
Like they're all, oh my God. Well, the
Yeah.
guy left popcorn on the stove, right?
Right.
So it's
Exactly.
making noise, and then the oil in the pan starts burning, whatever.
Yeah.
One guy's playing with electricity while he's sitting in a bathroom with a wet floor. Like there's all sorts
Yeah.
of things that could be explained away
Yeah.
by real things. Yes, they all happen right at the same time.
They just
But
happen to,
I love that plausible deniability of
yes.
what was happening now, and
Right.
also the Sinu character. He's mentally going through something. Like
Yes.
they don't.
Yes.
So the fact that he zones out and
Mhm.
freezes, okay,
That is very strange. Yeah.
it
When he
was
did that.
it
That's
was
right.
innocent. He would be looking in a corner, and
Yeah.
everybody's like,
he sees
what is he look like?
the
He was
spirit.
so good at being creepy. But again, like somebody could be mentally disturbed
That's right.
and just zone out or whatever, right? Yeah. So he was going through some things. But yeah, I love that when it's just like on the edge of
Yeah.
is it real? Is it spirit?
I like I like that it works both ways, and that to me is a good horror, just concept in general. The unreliable narrator, which we had many,
yeah,
like you said, the events they could have been ghost related, they may not be ghost related, and I feel that way about everyone who sees ghosts or believes in ghosts. To me, I'm like, you could probably find a solution for anything you're talking about. Number one is you were asleep. Guarantee 90% of people who say, I woke up and I saw a ghost. I'm like, you were asleep. You might feel like you're awake, but you were asleep. So I love that idea because are they real? Maybe. I mean, the electricity did go out.
right.
And so I love that. I mean, she could have been playing around with them. I love how too they kind of tried to pretend that big poster on the wall was what she actually looked like. This beautiful model. That's her. It's like
they never translated. I don't know if that was a movie poster. So anybody watching, let me know.
Yeah, what was that poster?
Like was it an ad or was it a movie poster or what was it?
Yeah, was it some fake they made up for the movie or is it a real kind of thing that
right? Is it a real thing? I'm guessing it's probably a real thing, but they never
like a Farrah poster.
I don't know, but it was anyway. So super fun movie,
really fun. Highly recommended.
I think in America it's playing on. Is it Amazon Prime or was it Hulu?
Where did I see it? I think I saw it on Hulu, I believe.
I think it was
Hulu,
you'll find. Which means that it's probably Disney Hotstar in India. Yeah. And I mean, it's just super fun movie. I don't know what it just things were happening when it came out, so I wasn't in a place to see it in the theater. And like I said, I'm regretting the fact that I couldn't see it with because that would be so much more fun. But Soubin Shahir is someone who I've seen in so many films, and he's just absolutely fantastic. He's just basically can do no wrong in my boat. So his name on this film alone was like, well, of course I want to see it, right? Especially he's doing comedy. He's
exactly
so good. He's so great with those reactions, the facial reactions to things.
I know he was and he could rock that line between affable, cool guy to not. And I love that idea that he can sort of go in between those two things. I've seen in a few movies where he is the good guy, but then he's not the good guy. He has something underneath, like some kind of darkness. And he really plays that well because he seems kind of just normal guy. He's not like the hot guy who's instantly kind of suspect. He's not the really, dorky, weird character actor. He's like right in between where he can literally go anywhere. You never know what he's going to do. So I really admired that. So I was very, very happy to see him in this because he's perfect casting for this movie where you're not sure what's happening.
And again, he's also a talented scriptwriter and director.
And he does it all.
Yeah, he did a film called Parva with Doker had a role in that film. So, I'm like, that's the thing. It's almost like an ensemble theater group, Malayalam Cinema, because they all kind of take turns. And the other we're gonna do a taping today of the movie 96, and I was trying to research the kid that played the young Vijay Sethupathi role, Aditya Bhaskar. He has some role in this film, but I don't know what, and I don't know like was he that young couple that came in? Like I literally I saw his name associated with it on IMDb. Like, so I'm asking an honest question. I don't think he was one of the 7 guys because they all had names. He doesn't seem to have a name role, but somehow he was in this movie, and I don't know if he was. I'm guessing maybe he was that young couple that came in kind of at the beginning and with the missing gold chain or whatever.
Right.
But if anybody else knows which role he has, please let us know in the comments because I was like, okay, this is a weird connection here.
That is weird. I did not know that. That's interesting. Oh yeah, I love that they do that.
Because we're going to do a review of 96 for Kathy's channel, and I was like, I wonder what happened to that kid. Like, what is he doing now? And then I'm like, what? Romancham? What?
Right. I feel like, the Malayalam, the filmmaking community seems pretty tight. I mean, they do high quality films. It's a pretty small industry relatively, but so I feel like they all kind of help each other out. So I love that he will show up in other movies, because you see characters like that in movies are kind of throwaways in a way. I mean, he wasn't really throwaway in 96. I'm sad that he wasn't in a bigger role, because it seemed like he could handle it.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'd like to know.
96 is also a Tamil movie, and there's also a lot of crossover between Malayalam and Tamil. So I don't know, but I mean, I think horror is really a great genre for a debut director, because you can make a with societal commentary kind of points. It's really cheap budget, and you can get a wide cross section of people, like from teenagers on up, that will enjoy this kind of film. And so you're not kind of pigeonholed with one particular kind of audience. And so I think this is smart, but obviously they're working on a sequel, because this was so huge.
Yeah. And it was kind of open-ended. So
absolutely,
it's right for a sequel.
Absolutely. They absolutely set it up that we all want to know what happened next. Like, was there something in that yellow bag? Like, what is the deal with Cena? Like,
what is happening? I know, and horror fans are very loyal. And I feel like they're more open to international cinema than a lot of horror, film fans, because you find when you've gone through all the horror you can possibly find in America, which is pretty easy, the stuff that's good, you branch out. You go to Korean cinema, you go to Indian cinema, you go to Italian. Like, there's so many great horror films that are not made in America that horror fans will go. They will go. They find out that this is a good horror comedy. If we really push out the word, horror fans, come and see this movie. They will, because they want to see stuff like this.
But I mean, it's smart, like I said, for this writer-director, Jithu Madhavan, to start with a horror comedy, especially because you can be so low budget, right?
Yeah.
And still make
you don't need big effects.
No, you don't need any. Flicker the lights. It's good enough.
I mean, this didn't have any big effects. It didn't need it, because it's all mood and
we
dialogue.
Again, you're not worrying about a monster, because we never saw it. We never even saw a ghost or anything. Right?
No,
so you don't even have to worry about any special effects at all.
Exactly. You're selling the mood.
It's the vibes. It's that creepy vibes. All we need is Cena's face. It's creepy.
That's right. That's all you need. Done. Yeah, no, exactly. Just have that guy smiling in a weird vacant way, and you're like, I'm getting the creeps.
Okay, well, like I said, I've seen him in other supporting roles, and he is so talented. Like I said, he really blew me away in the second half of this film, and I hope he gets other bigger roles.
Yes,
from the success of this, because
maybe the sequel will have him more in it.
Oh, I imagine it would.
He stole the show. They need to hire him very quickly. Better
lately.
We're talking to you guys out there. Hire this guy. Give him a bigger role.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's all of these besides Soubin. There's all of these 6 guys who were new actors to me, pretty as far as I know. Yeah. And I don't know that any of the rest of them completely stood out among. I mean, maybe the guy, like you said, who was sort of the dad role, but like nobody that I'm like, I want to see a whole movie with him.
Yeah.
Like I did with Sinu, with Arjun Ashokan. I'm like, I want to see a whole movie with you, buddy. Like,
exactly.
Sign him up.
Sign him up. I mean, we saw the core group are really strong together. So bring it through. Just bring that thing on through to the next one. Romancham 2.
All right. Thanks, Kathy, for joining me. And if anyone has other tips for horror movies, and I know a lot of people are going, and I can't pronounce it right now. I'm going to murder it. But there is a very creepy old horror film starring Mohanlal, and it has Shabana as this possibly possessed by a dancer from the past. Movie from, I think it was in the 90s. Like,
wow, okay.
It was remade. So the original, I think, and it was remade several times in other languages. It's very famous. Manachitra Lazu. Okay, there we go.
Oh, I will never remember that.
Remember the Manachitra Lazu, which is famous with Shabana, and she has this like possessed dance that is.
Oh, okay. Suspiria.
And Mohanlal plays a psychologist, which at the time the movie comes out was still kind of is this a real thing? Among care, like he's kind of explaining, she's having this mental illness, whatever, and everyone is like, no, she's possessed by this spirit.
Oh, okay, so
So
you're either possessed or mentally ill.
Right. It's that push-pull thing.
That's still happening. That's still happening today, where people
absolutely.
are
The
thinking they're
exorcisms
possessed.
and things still happen. Like the Catholic
That's
Church
right.
still does that.
Just
So
mental illness, people. All right.
I know you've seen Drishem, but I'm not sure you've seen any kind of the more classic things. But that's
Right.
that's a standout Malayalam horror. But if anyone has other suggestions, it does, outside of Malayalam too, any other horror films,
Right.
that's Kathy's genre. That's what she loves. So let's give her some ideas.
Right. Malayalam, I don't care, Tamil, Telugu, Hindi. Bring it. That's what I want. I want more Indian horror. That's what and also, I think that their hardcore crime stuff is almost horror. So they can be really scary in their crime movies too.
All right. Thank you, Kathy, again for joining me.
So fun.
This. Yeah, and I know people have been asking for this review, and I finally got to it. Yes. So
you had to bring in the horror fan.
All right, this is super fun. Thank you, Kathy. And again, you can find her on her YouTube channel, Cinemondo Podcast, and you can find me on Twitter at Pardesi YT and on Instagram at Pardesi Reviews. See you next time.
Bye.